as it went for him, he was prepared mentally to live a life seemingly running from the law enforcement. Now, that's looking at it as a criminal. I want to now look at it as a person that needs mental health and understand the importance of mental health in our community, understand the importance of mental health in our society. And, what do one do when they feel as though there needs to really begin to reach out in these particular areas for help? But continue reading the story.
When he made bail last week, he was so angry at his imprisonment that he shot 4 random uniformed cops doing paperwork in a suburban Seattle coffee shop Sunday, officials said. The only motive we have is that he decided he was going to kill police officers. He was angry about being incarcerated, said Pierce County Sheriff spokesman Ed Troyer. Patrolman Benjamin Kelly ended the manhunt for Clemons at 2:45 a.m. when he stumbled upon the suspected killer by his broken-down stolen car. Clemons refused orders to show his hands, and Kelly shot him, authorities said. Police then began rounding up a half-dozen friends and relatives who helped the ex-con while he was on the lam. We don't think anyone helped him plan this murder, but his family has enabled him. Even after he killed 4 officers, they continued to try and save him, Troyer said. He said they gave Clemons medical aid, phones, cars, and money and tried to help hide him. There was speculation they also made some bogus 911 calls that had police running all over town chasing ghosts. They are going to pay for it, Troyer said. A huge memorial for the slain officers is planned Tuesday in Tacoma.
Okay. So that's the story according to the Daily News. Now, the Seattle Times have come out with a story this morning, because I did speak with someone from the Seattle Times. And let's read the story from the Seattle Times, and then we just got word from them that they're going to be running an additional story. Spoke to another reporter for Sunday morning in Seattle. Okay, go ahead, Prophet Kelly.
Clemons traveled to meet New York minister, citing God's instructions.
Wow. Now, that's interesting. It's interesting in how, the interview goes and what people pick out of it,
Mm-hmm.
But, looking at it, you got to begin to ask yourself the question, because that was one of the questions one of the reporters, the journalist from Fox News and also Inside Edition. I don't know when Inside Edition is going to run the story. Because they're asking for some interesting things. But I will say this, is that what makes a person seek out a prophet? And I know you've heard us say this time and time again, that people come to the prophets when they come to the end of themselves. Something, every one of us that come in this direction, you come because you came to a point of conclusion. I cannot even begin to tell you the stories of individuals that have come this way. And Prophet Thompson, we've seen people come this way, and it's really the last stop, isn't it?
Master Prophet, it is literally the last stop. And the prophetic counsel or the prophetic guidance, the word of the Lord that comes forth, literally preserves their life from destruction.
Yes, preserves the life from destruction is right. And it's all in how you take heed to that counsel. And so the word of the Lord comes to preserve the life. So continue on, Prophet Kelly.
At his first encounter with the accused cop killer Maurice Clemons, a New York City cleric says he immediately discerned a mental problem. Clemons, 37, had shown up for a prayer service at Bishop E. Bernard Jordan's Zoe Ministries Church on Manhattan's Riverside Drive on June 12th. At his first encounter with accused cop killer Maurice Clemons, a New York City cleric says he immediately discerned a mental problem. Clemons, 37, had shown up for a prayer service at Bishop E. Bernard Jordan's Zoe Ministries Church on Manhattan's Riverside Drive on June 12th. There were about 300 people in the congregation on that balmy evening. He stood up in the service and loudly asked for water, Jordan recalled. Then he stood up again and apologized. Jordan, a Brooklyn-born, self-styled prophet.
Wow, I love that. Self-style.
A Brooklyn-born self-style.
A Brooklyn self-styled
Brooklyn-born self-style.
Brooklyn-born self-styled prophet. How do you style yourself as a? Because that takes a lot to begin to look at what happens when these stories are written. You can't get offended about it, and nowhere are we offended. We're more humored about it, So now we see the self-style, and I'm gonna tell you some things that this journalist asked, which was quite interesting. Also, but a self-styled prophet. See, it's difficult for them to say a God-ordained prophet because that means we give the authority.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a way, it's got to diminish the prophet or make mockery of the office, lest they lend weight to it. And then if they lend weight to it, then they have to begin to become responsible, And these are just some questions that, that you need to look at. And when you read, I remember sitting in a class with one of the professors that said this. He said, reading is not reading words, it's reading between the words. Amen. So, we think that this is very interesting. Okay, continue on, Prophet Kelly.
Author and prosperity preacher said that Clemons then rushed the stage. He was escorted outside. But before leaving that night, Clemons returned, wrote his name on a small church envelope, and tucked a monetary offering inside.
Now, this reporter was very, very interesting. He said, did he give a large offering that night? And I never forget, I was sitting in the back of the Phantom Rolls Royce during this interview. And I had a couple other guys with me. And they said, wait a minute, they said, what is large? And I said, what is large? I said, you asking a question. He said, did he bring a large offering? I said, what is large? He says, about $100.
Wow.
And I never answered the question.
Right.
Because he would have burned that up in gas.
Just from
I says, why?
one state alone.
Why are we doing a report on a tragic incident, and you're trying to find out if he brought a large offering? You're calling large $100. And so it was, we found that kind of humorous, and so all of you in the chat room would be considered large givers.
By their definition.
By the definition of large.
Yes.
So how many of y'all would do a large seed of $118.25 so I can get, what did the headlines of this article say?
Clemons traveled to meet New York ministers citing God's instruction.
So how many of you would give $118.25 to cite God's instruction? Wow.
Or Siobhan says, I'm large money.
And why don't we just make it a 152? Because favor isn't there. Amen. Favor is